Alright guys, how's it going? I am the Crown Clown, and today we are doing What If Deku Was Superman, Part 1. And in this series, I'm not going with Clark Kent Superman, not going with Connor Kent, I'm not doing Cyborg Superman, none of that. I'm doing Jonathan Kent, which if you don't know who Jonathan Kent is, he is the son of, Clark Kent, and he is Superman in the current DC Comics of Future State. So Deku's actually going to be wearing that version of the Superman outfit. His powers are going to be invulnerability, the solar absorption, of course. He's going to be having super strength, super speed, increased healing. He's going to have, X-ray vision, EMP vision, microvision, telescopic vision. He's going to have the ice breath, flight, and a solar flare. So he's gonna be pretty stacked, but his weaknesses are, kryptonite, of course. But on top of that, he also has a power instability. And yeah, that's gonna play a big role. So, with this out of the way, let's jump right on into What If Deku Was Superman, Part 1. And when we start this What If off, it's not with Deku, it's actually with his father, Hisashi. Since Superman's been gone from the world for years, centuries, people have forgotten about the Man of Steel. Hisashi is not one of them, however, as he's looked at Superman as his idol for decades. Ever since he found out about the Man of Steel, he's wanted to have a son who could be just like him. So, he also is a brilliant researcher who's actually working at LexCorp Japan branch. And Hisashi's actually very high up. He's actually just under the CEO, who is not Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor's dead and gone. It's just some no-name. And Hisashi, he actually is able to click through the old LexCorp files and find everything about Superman, including his reproductive DNA. Hisashi takes that file without LexCorp knowing, and he actually manages to override his own DNA to match that of Clark Kent's, meaning whenever he reproduces, it'll be not Hisashi Midoriya's kid, but Clark Kent's. As Inko is unknowing of any of this, as Hisashi ends up having a child with Inko, and Deku is born, still with that green hair that Inko has, so Hisashi is covered. Although Deku doesn't have the freckles that Hisashi probably gave him since Inko didn't have any, then Inko just thinks that she just has more of the child of her, as Deku doesn't really show anything of Hisashi. She just brushes it off as the kid takes more after her. And, Hisashi doesn't tell her anything. However, LexCorp does find out about Hisashi taking those files. They want them back. As Hisashi returns the files, they ask, did anything come of this research? As Hisashi says no, nothing. As they believe him. And they say, you're fired. So Hisashi loses his job, but it's actually picked up by Wayne Corp Japan branch, which is run by Damian Wayne. And yes, Damian, he's still around because he's not only, Wayne Corp's, direct person, but he's also the leader of the League of Assassins and Batman. So that means he has access to every Lazarus pit around the world. Anytime he's getting too old, he just takes a dip and restores his youth. So Damian is Batman in this, and he's actually stationed in Japan right now. And he stays there. After hearing about what happened at LexCorp, he has a feeling that he's going to see something that'll bring about his past all the way up again and see something truly amazing. As crime is actually decreased in Japan as Damian is Batman and everybody knows Batman doesn't mess around. Damian is a lot more brutal than Bruce ever was, so villains are a lot more terrified of him, especially since Damian started using Bane's venom along with Scarecrow's fear toxin. So he's an absolute threat to everyone. And not even that, but he's able to match All Might in strength. And he was able to counteract the side effects of Venom. So he doesn't have any side effects to it. And, when Deku is born, after that, he doesn't show any powers. He doesn't show the invulnerability right away. And even when he's in kindergarten, he doesn't show any promise. As Hisashi gets frustrated with himself, thinking he just lost a job at LexCorp and is now working a lower paid job at Wayne Enterprise for this, a failure of an experiment. Oh my, he's just infuriated. He's so infuriated, in fact, that he divorces Inko. He thinks it was her genes that was the problem, and that the kid didn't take enough after Clark Kent. So, yeah, Hisashi divorces Inko, and Inko, she's actually pretty saddened by this, but she literally just, starts dating again. With Deku being so happy, it makes her, just smile. So, with the divorce being finalized, Deku actually has to move, which means he doesn't interact with Bakugo a whole lot. Just enough for Bakugo to bully him enough, but once he moves off, he's actually, moved to an apartment building. And that's where Inko stays for a good little bit, but she does start dating somebody again. Somebody named Toshinori Yagi. As she figures out she's dating All Might, and All Might's actually very smitten with her. And sees this kid as someone who's got a bright smile and always tries to help other people. He's very proud of Deku, and he plans to make Deku his successor. Little does he know, Deku actually has powers that far exceeds his own. As when Deku first enters middle school, Inko and All Might actually get married. So he's there at their wedding ceremony, and as soon as it's over and they're about ready to go home, Deku actually feels like something. His eyes feel irritated as he's just rubbing his eyes, and then as soon as he opens them up again, this red beam just shoots out of his eyes. Inko is startled. All Might's just like, yo, what the hell? And, Deku just shoots it straight up into the sky. As he closes his eyes, his senses are starting to get overwhelmed. He's starting to hear everybody's voices. He screams out in pain. And, Inko doesn't know what's going on, and neither does All Might. He's just shocked as Deku starts to float right off the ground. All Might's just like, is that float? I know that quirk. But as they take Deku back to the quirk doctor, as before, when he was a kid, he was diagnosed as quirkless. And they say he's still quirkless, but it appears his genetic structure is different. As they say, we don't know what this is, but this DNA, it's not just human. As they start to look very weird, Damian Wayne, having satellites in all over the sky, all over the world, he picked up on what happened with Deku, and he knows which hospital they're at. He calls and the doctors say, we're bringing in a specialist who might know, so until he gets here, please stay in this room. As they do, as Damian Wayne pulls up, he walks straight past the receptionist. She's like, hey, you need an appointment, and Damian says, I am the appointment. And she's just like, huh? As the doctor says, that was Mr. Wayne you were just talking to. He's here to see a patient. As the receptionist is like, wait, the Damian Wayne? The man who never ages and is immortal? And the doctor says, that's the one. That's the rumor Damien spread around, that he was the first quirked person. In reality, he's powerless. But as he gets in there, he sees Deku, and he's like, let me guess, you were the one that shot that red beam into the sky, right? As Deku's just like, how did you? He's like, it's heat vision. And All Might's like, what? How do you know? As Damien says, I've been around for centuries. After all, I know someone who was my best friend once. He had those powers. You're half Kryptonian. Apparently, if these charts are right, you have Clark Kent's DNA. As they're like, who's Clark Kent? Damien says, back in the old days, like way before quirks were even a thing, there was this man named Superman. He was super strong. He was a Kryptonian. He came from our planet. As he starts to explain Superman's backstory, he says, however, he had a son. He was half Kryptonian, half human hybrid. And his cells match a lot to Izuku Midoriya's. Meaning, actually, a dead man is your father. As Inko says, that must have been why Hisashi was always so angry. As, Deku just thinks that Hisashi was cruel ever since, he was in middle school. And after the divorce, he signed away all rights to Deku. And All Might gets pretty pissed off hearing that name, and he's just like, forget about him. This boy's my son. I'm gonna take care of him. Whatever powers he has, we'll deal with it. Damien starts listing off his powers, and they're just like, he has that many, and All Might's just like, I was gonna have him be my inheritor, but my quirk would actually be a downgrade from his powers. As Damien agrees, and he says, how about I train the kid? As All Might's just like, wait, what? As Damien says that the Superman that he grew up with, Jonathan Kent, had a power instability because of his human DNA. You see, human DNA and Kryptonian DNA, they're very different. And with one being so powerful and the other being so weak, it creates a power instability. It's not really his fault, but it can be overcome with a lot of training and dedication. As All Might basically says, okay, fine. And Deku's realizing he's gonna have to miss out on his last year of middle school just to train with Damien. And All Might says that he will get him a private tutor. Damien says he'll bankroll it, so don't worry about it. He wants to train him because the world needs a Superman again. He can't let that name die out. As All Might would say, you're right. And he gets a call saying that he's needed in America. With All Might knowing that, Inko will be fine, Deku will be looked after, he leaves for America to see his old friend again, David Shield. And Inko, she's actually pretty happy with Deku, and since All Might's out of the country and Deku's training with Damien, the sludge filling would never happen to Deku, but it would happen to Bakugo. And with no All Might there, the sludge filling would potentially get away, but remember, Damien's here. He would already have had the sludge filling locked in his sights and tracking it. So as soon as it got away from those pro heroes, Damien would actually be on the case. And with him catching up to the sludge filling, he would throw heat batarangs onto it, burning it off of Bakugo, saving him. As Bakugo would be totally knocked out, Damien would take him to a hospital and leave him there. Bakugo would wake up and realize what happened to him. He was captured by a sludge villain. So how did he end up in the hospital? As They were hoping he would know. The hospital staff say someone just left him here. As Damien would be back with Deku, Deku would say, I could have handled that. Damien said no, you couldn't have. You would have killed him. As Deku says, no, I'm well more trained now. As Damien says, I know, but you're still not perfect. After all, you only have 10 more months till that entrance exam. However, are you sure you want to take it? I could just recommend you. My name carries a lot of weight, plus UA's kinda has me affiliated with it right now. Ever since you said you wanted to go, I took up a teaching role there. So I'll be there to keep an eye on you. And, Deku, he's actually met the Justice League in this. And he says, are you sure the League won't miss you? As Damien says, the League will be fine without me. You're my priority. Besides, I left Green Lantern in charge. I'm pretty sure he's got this covered. And if he doesn't, the Flash definitely does. I knew him from my time back in the Teen Titans. As Deku says, how is he still alive? Damien says, I'm not the only one that uses the Lazarus pits, As Deku would say, yeah, I guess so. He says, I let the whole League dip in it. John Stewart, he's our most experienced member. And he's actually the leader. But Power Girl, she's Kryptonian, so she ages very slowly. And as for Wallace, I just let him dip in it because, well, it's always good to have a speedster. After all, Barry chose not to. So Wallace, when he picked up the role, he was the best suited for it. And he says, that's, however, all that we have. We only have Power Girl, we have Green Lantern, Wallace, and me. We could use a fifth member. And he says, that's what you're going to be when you graduate from UA. Part of the Justice League. As Deku says, are you sure? And Damien says, you're half Kryptonian, of course. We need a Superman. As Deku would say, okay, I got you. And Damien would hand him his first suit, which would look just like the thumbnail. As Deku would say, this is amazing. Thank you. And Damien would say, no problem. But go out and prove that you're ready for that S. After all, it means something. And All Might would actually call Deku and say, hey, he's back from America. And Deku would say, whoa, are you sure? He says, yeah, there's someone I want you to meet. She decided to come back with me. And Deku says, she? And All Might says, you'll see when you get here. So Deku would say, I'm gonna go see my dad. And, Damien would say, yeah, it's been a while. Go see him. As Deku would rush over there, flying through the sky to see All Might, wearing his new Superman suit. As he would touch down right in front of All Might, which he would see this gorgeous blonde-haired girl with these amazing blue eyes. As, Melissa Shield, she's going to be Deku's age in this, so I'm de-aging her a little bit. As he's like, oh, hi, I'm Izuku Midoriya. And she'd say, hi, I'm Melissa Shield. And Deku would say, so, how do you know my dad? As Melissa would say, wait, this is your dad? That's amazing. I just know him as my dad's friend. And Deku would say, really? And she's like, yeah, and now he's my master. As All Might would tell Deku that he made Melissa his successor. Seeing her bravery and dedication, along with how intelligent she is, she was the best candidate. And besides, he wanted to make sure that he had a successor, since his body isn't what it used to be. And he was losing time fast. As Deku catches him up to everything that's been happening in, Japan, All Might's just like, I see. So he proposes a question to Deku. Does he want to keep training with Damien, or does he want to train with his old man? And Deku would say he wants to keep training with Damien. He doesn't want to see what All Might's been teaching Melissa till the entrance exam. And, Melissa says, yeah, I can't wait. And Melissa, she's actually pretty strong in this. So, with her being smart and David being there to translate All Might's vague teachings, she actually understands not to just use it in one spot, but to spread it throughout her body. Meaning Melissa would actually have full cowling. And Deku's training with Damien would actually be very helpful, as he would finally get full control over his heat vision and his other senses. After all, it had been over a year since he started training. And even though his flying was questionable at times, he was still pretty solid for the entrance exams. So, as he'd get there, not wearing his Superman suit, but wearing like a t-shirt with the S on it, and a leather jacket, some black pants, and some black boots. He would really just be rocking that vibe, and he would have an undercut and slicked his hair back. So, he would actually be pretty happy. As for Damien, he would actually be watching. Since he is a teacher at UA, he would be right there with All Might. And he'd be dressed in his bat suit, which I'm giving him the Batman Beyond suit in this, just because Damien did have it in the Batman Beyond comics at first. So yeah, Damien has the Batman Beyond suit. And with All Might there, he thinks that this is going to be interesting to see his student go up against Damien's. As, they take their test, like, Melissa, she passes easy. And Deku, he passes just as easy. Bakugo is there, but he doesn't really remember Deku, and Deku doesn't remember Bakugo. Like I said, they didn't spend a whole lot of time together. As for Uraraka, that really wouldn't be an encounter, since Deku would mainly be just chilling with Melissa. After all, he does have a little crush on her. And, they actually keep talking a lot, and Deku is flirting with her, because he did pick up that game from Damien, so, yeah. And, the whole league would actually come to watch Deku. Getting there just after he passed his exam, and would head to the practice field, so the whole Justice League is in the building. And, John, he's actually very curious to see just how well trained Deku is. As so is Power Girl, seeing that her cousin's DNA runs through that kid's veins. It's like it's her own cousin. And again, however that works, I'm not too good on that. But still, they are family. As for the test, President Mike says there's no countdowns in a real battle. Deku and Melissa blitz. Melissa has full counting active as she destroys about 100 robots before Deku destroys the other 900. So yeah, Deku and Melissa pretty much destroy everything before it even starts, with the 0-pointer honing in. Deku says, so who do you want to see gets it? And she says, flip of the coin. Deku says, yeah, flip of the coin. As they flip a coin, and it lands on heads, as Deku says, ha, mine. Melissa says, show off. As Deku would literally just fly up there, uppercutting it, and picking it up, and slamming it back into the ground, as everyone would see just how strong Deku is, as he would hit it with his heat vision and just cause it to blow up. As, John would be like, that kid is definitely a Superman. As, Power Girl says he's earned that S. Damien says a bit of a show off, as Wallace would just say, I wonder where he got that from. As Damien would just say, jerk. All Might would be very impressed with Deku, and be very impressed with Melissa as well, seeing as how those two were the only ones to score any points. As they would walk out, they would be surrounded by everyone, kind of angry, but also amazed at their powers. As for Deku, he would really just pick Melissa up and fly off, as Melissa would just say, "Thanks for the save." As for Melissa's hero outfit in this, she's gonna get the Supergirl suit. Seeing as how Deku's Superman and there's no Supergirl, she decides to pick up the name. And Deku has no objections, and neither does Power Girl, because she realizes that the name Supergirl should be carried on. So Melissa is a prime candidate for it. And after the time that passes through, Deku actually gets his, acceptance letter. He's very happy for it. Melissa gets hers as well, and all the other students that didn't score any points actually had to do a retest. So, yeah. And it's the first day. So, they're actually walking up to school together as they run into Ida, because Ida was actually waiting for them. As he would ask what their powers are, because he never got an answer. As Deku would say, "That's a secret." Melissa would say, "Ditto," as they would walk in. Ida being like, "Okay, well, that's kind of rude," would just, kind of just say, "Well, not everyone wants to talk about their quirk, so, oh well." As they get there, they start seeing the other students run in, and, the person that Melissa replaces is actually Toru, Invisible Girl. So she's not in this class. Melissa is instead. As for that, basically, Aizawa gets up and tells them, if you're here to make friends, I suggest you walk out that door instead. As everyone be like, so what about orientation? As Aizawa would tell them, we don't have time for that. We only got so long to turn you into heroes. So he would say, quirk assessment, go change and get out there on the field. As he would actually, be down there waiting, Deku would be the first one there with Melissa a close second. So Mineta would actually, still get stuck in the eye by Jiro, but Deku and Melissa wouldn't be in there, since they were so fast. And Aizawa says, well, it seems like you two are going to be top of the class, since he's looking at their scores and he says, but one of you definitely outshines the other. As Deku says, well, can't be helped, I guess. As Aizawa says, true enough, but at the same time, it's kind of a wide gap. Like, you overlap not just her, but everybody. It's kind of, frightening just how many points you are ahead of them. As Deku would just say, sorry. As I would say, no, you're more likely to be a better hero than the rest of them anyway. Melissa, hearing that, says, what? The points can't really determine that, can they? As Aizawa says, no, not in the slightest. I'm just going off his powers that were showcased on this video. He's actually pretty much up there with All Might. I would say he's even above him. He's Justice League level already, as the Justice League is well known throughout this world. So, yes. As Damien would actually come out and say, he's not Justice League level yet, don't give him that much of a swelled head. As Deku would see him and say, oh, come on, Bats, you trained me. As Aizawa would hear that, he's like, so you're the one who trained the boy. Interesting. As Batman would just tell them, yeah, I trained him, but his powers are his own. He didn't get that from anyone else. As pretty much Deku's just like, yeah, okay. And basically, everyone else gets out there as they see Batman. They're all fanning out, just like, it's Batman. As Damien's just like, chill, I'm just here to watch. Focus on your exam or you'll never make it. And Aizawa, says that's true, as he throws the ball to Deku and says, throw it as hard as you can. And Damien says, if you don't get the ball into orbit, you fail. And they're just like, wait, what? We can't throw it into orbit. As Damien says, not you losers, him. As Deku just says, alright, bet. As Damien pulls up his satellites watching. As Deku just throws the ball as hard as he can, shooting it past the sky, all the way into orbit, and even into Mars. As Damien just says, wow, you got it to Mars. Impressive. As Aizawa just says, that's infinity. And basically, Melissa would be up next, as she gets about, I don't know, 3,000 meters. As Deku would just say, wow, you're really strong. As everyone sees their power, they're just like, that's insane. Uraraka would tie with Deku for infinity. And basically, throughout the rest of the exams, Deku dominates and Melissa's dominating in second place. And everyone's just like, we can't keep up with these two monsters. And Deku would just be happy to hear it. And he's like, yeah, sorry, my bad. As Melissa would just be, yeah, right. They'd go home for the day, and the next day would come, and Deku would actually be ready for it, as All Might burst into the room and says, all right, it's time for heroes versus villains. Go put on the new threads and show us what you heroes are made of. As everyone's waiting for Deku and Melissa to come out. As Melissa, she's excited. Those red heels on her, she's not wearing the cape though. But that spandex that's all blue, all the way over her, and then the red symbol on her chest with the S, as Deku walks out in his sleek new Superman suit. And everyone sees them. They're just like, oh, you guys got matching symbols now too? As Deku would basically just say, shut up. As Melissa would say, it's none of your business. As All Might would say, so, what do we call you two? As Melissa says, Supergirl. Deku would say, call me Superman. As Damien would say, nope, you're Superboy for right now. And Deku's just like, say what? And Damien says, you haven't earned the right to call yourself Superman. You're Superboy. And Deku's just like, fine, Superboy until you tell me I earned it. As everyone starts laughing at him, Deku just says, if you guys got the energy to laugh, I hope you don't go down too quickly. As they just shut up, and they're just like, dude, you can't be that full of yourself. Damien just immediately tells everyone to shut up and listen. As All Might explains the rules, and the teams are a bit different. This time, it's actually Deku and Ida versus Bakugo and Melissa. Bakugo is happy to be on a team with Melissa as he tries to hit on her. But Melissa, knowing Bakugo's type, just tells him to shut up and hands off. As Bakugo's just like, man, aren't you full of yourself? As he is kind of angry that Deku outshined him. But Ida is actually very happy to be on the team with Deku. As they're the villains this time, Deku's just like, I don't know why I got put on the villain team. Ida says, me either, but here we are, we gotta make the best of it. So they'd get ready and Deku says, I'm pretty much just gonna go for them. As Ida says, what should I do? And he says, oh, just chill out here, protect this place in case one gets by me. And Ida says, alright, that's what I'll do. And as for Uraraka, she takes like Invisible Girl's place on whoever's team she's with. But Deku would actually be waiting for them as soon as they entered. Bakugo, seeing this, Melissa would actually be kind of scared. She doesn't want to take Deku on because she knows she won't win. Bakugo has no fear. He rushes right at Deku and just says, come here, you loser. As Deku would just fly forward, grabbing Bakugo by the face and throwing him right back out the entrance. As Bakugo flies back and hits the wall, he's just coughing up blood as he's just like, that hurt, as he hits the ground and passes out from the pain. And Melissa's just like, holy shit, as Deku just freezes her with his ice breath. Melissa would actually be like super embarrassed, but realizing she doesn't really stand a chance while she's frozen. The match is over and they're just like, the hell is with this guy? As Todoroki would say, he's got an ice quirk? As All Might would say, he's quirkless. And Damien would say, yep, he's totally quirkless. As they're just like, what? There's no way he's quirkless. That's impossible. Not with that strength. Not with those abilities. There's no way. As they would tell them that he's actually half Kryptonian. Not a full human. And they'd say Kryptonian. And they'd be like, you mean like Power Girl? And he'd be like, yeah, like Power Girl. After all, Power Girl's his cousin, so take it like you will. As they're just like, oh, cool. So they kind of accept him right off the bat, and they say, yeah, he's definitely super worthy. As Damien says he's not Superman yet, he's Superboy. As All Might would say, what is your deal with that whole thing? Damien would just say, I just don't want him to get a swelled head, you know? As Ida would be just like, I can't believe you just won that by yourself. Deku says, I'm pretty strong, don't you know? As he thaws Melissa out, as she says, well, you got me. Deku would say, yeah, sorry about that. As she says, no worries. As she's actually pretty happy that Deku did win and didn't end up seriously hurting her. But she also feels kind of embarrassed for losing so easily. But she does feel something for Deku. And it's more than just admiration. She kind of likes him. Because he's nice, but he's so strong at the same time. He can be stern, but he's gentle as well. So he's actually pretty happy, but he's not too happy about what happened to Bakugo. Damien would pull him off to the side and says, what the fuck was that? As Deku says, I'm sorry, I lost control for a second. And Damien says, you don't get to lose control for a second. Not with your powers. Remember, to you, this whole world's made of glass. Tap it too hard, you shatter it. You could have killed him. Seriously, get your powers under control or you'll never be Superman. As Deku says, I understand. As Damien says, good. I don't want to have this talk with you again. As Deku would say, I got it. And that actually put him in a pretty bad mood, knowing how badly he hurt Bakugo. And the rest of the fights go pretty much as in canon. Uraraka being there instead of Invisible Girl just doesn't do a whole lot of difference. So, yeah. Anyway, it's the end of the school day and Bakugo finally wakes up from the infirmary. As everyone says, yo, Bakugo, look where all that smack talk got you, thrown right out the door and into a wall. As Bakugo would be like, whatever. Deku would actually come up and try to apologize. As Bakugo would just say, man, fuck you and fuck off. As he would literally just walk back and he's just like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. And everyone would see that he really didn't mean to do that. So Bakugo would get kind of a bad rap and Kirishima really wouldn't like him all that much. As he'd be more, accustomed to Deku and would realize Deku's personal struggles. He would walk up to Deku and be like, hey man, don't worry about him. He's just an asshole. You did great and your power totally rocks. Keep it up. As Deku would say, thanks. As Kirishima would introduce himself, the name's Heiji Kirishima. Nice to meet you. And Deku would say, Izuku Midoriya. Pleasure's mine. And Kirishima says, let's go get something to eat. As Deku would say, sure. But that's where I'm going to leave it off for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys really do enjoy the 2K special of Fairy Tail. As always, I've been the Crown Clown, and I will catch you guys later.